Well, welcome to Christ&Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today we're going to be talking about something that's in the news recently. It's been in the news actually for over a year, and a couple individuals have been linked together in the news, and that is the big trial out there. I think it's in California of P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Puffy Combs. He goes by different names, and he has been accused of basically running some kind of a prostitution orgy, some kind of immoral, illegal gatherings called freakouts, I guess they're called, and he's in a lot of trouble, and people are suing him, and he could be in all kinds of legal trouble, even prison time for that. And the association, though, with the pastor, preacher, T.D. Jakes, the megachurch radio and television minister T.D. Jakes, very popular in pop culture. T.D. Jakes, he's on television all the time. You hear him on radio, and he's written all kinds of best-selling books. And he's a very popular figure in church and Christianity in the United States, mostly in the African American community, but also in the wider culture. Very well known. He's been featured on a number of different mainstream media television interviews. He's been featured in mainstream magazines. So he's a very high-profile Christian minister of a very high-profile church, the Potter's Field, it's called. And so the problem is he's been linked to P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Puffy Combs. He's been linked to him, not only linked to him as far as friendship is concerned, but he's also been linked to his associations and gatherings of P. Diddy. So it is alleged that T.D. Jakes has actually attended some of these freak-offs, they're called, where a lot of immoral, a lot of just licentious behavior is taking place. And so here's an article here in the Christian Post. It was from last year, but it still has enough relevant information. I thought I'd go ahead and cover it. And I want to talk about it because there is an issue here of if T.D. Jakes was actually attending some of these immoral, basically orgies over at P. Diddy's mansion or held by P. Diddy in different locations, if he actually did attend some of these, was he doing so out of Christian mission? Was he doing so out of Christian evangelism and discipleship? Was he trying to be an influence on this segment of society, this secular culture in the African American culture mostly? But I don't think everyone at these freak-offs were just totally confined to African American population. I think there were other people. Justin Bieber had been associated with some of these. And so T.D. Jakes, if he attended some of these, and he had been present in some of these pretty immoral places, was he trying to fulfill the Great Commission? Was he doing so as a minister of the gospel, trying to bring a good influence into some of these celebrities, Hollywood stars, singers, so forth? Was he doing it out of good intentions? And is that legitimate to go into some of these questionable, immoral activities, gatherings, and just be there present? Is that proper for a minister of the gospel? Is that necessary? Some people, for example, we saw this last year with the big controversy around Alistair Begg, a high-profile pastor in the suburbs of Cleveland, where he actually gave some advice to a grandmother to go ahead and attend a gay wedding and bring a gift to the gay wedding, just as long as her grandson, who was getting married, realized that she did not agree with what he was doing, it's okay to go, be a present there, be a witness for Jesus there, show your grandson that you love him despite his sin, and go anyway and be a part of that as a sign of your love for your grandson. That was Alistair Begg's shocking advice. And he gave that advice during an interview where his co-host on his radio show, I think it's Ed Lapine, Bob Lapine maybe, asked them, how do some of these principles in this new book that you're writing, Alistair, and releasing, how do these apply to real life? And so Alistair Begg was releasing a book that he had just written about the Sermon on the Mount and the teachings of Jesus, and how Jesus taught, for example, you could go to all kinds of different scriptures in the gospel. Let's go to Luke 15, starting at verse 1. It says, let me read this little passage, and then Alistair Begg would try to apply that in this interview by saying, the grandmother should go to the gay wedding just as long as her grandson realized that she didn't agree with it, and then go and bring a gift and be there and be present and show support for your grandson and love for him. Luke 15:1 says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him," that is Jesus. "But the Pharisees and teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" And then Jesus goes on and talks about if you have 100 sheep and you lose the one sheep, you leave the 99 and you go after that one that's lost. And then the parable concludes, "I tell you the same, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent." So basically the message is, you eat with the sinners, you fellowship with the sinners, you associate with the sinners, you go where they're at in an effort to find the lost sheep. So was that applied correctly in Alistair Begg's case, where he said to the grandmother, "Go ahead and attend this gay wedding"? Well, I think the vast majority of evangelical ministers who made comment on this said, no, that is really bad advice. You don't go to a gay wedding because, one, it's not a wedding. It's a mockery of the wedding. It's a fake, false, sham wedding. So you don't go there and lend your support and credibility, and you don't witness to anything there because nothing of any spiritual significance is taking place. In fact, the very opposite. It's a false teaching that's taking place that legitimizes this blasphemy in the eyes of some people. So you do not attend a gay wedding, and you don't need to show your love and support to your relative who is into that sinful lifestyle, immoral lifestyle. You can do in other ways. You can maintain that relationship even though you don't have to participate in that sinful activity, which you would be if you attended a wedding. There's a sense where the people that attend the wedding are standing behind this couple and supporting this couple and encouraging this couple. And actually in many wedding ceremonies, I've even given these, attended and even performed at the regular godly weddings, where you ask the congregation, do you stand behind and support this couple in their new relationship before the Lord? And they all say yes. So by attending a gay wedding, you are lending, either directly, as in many of the people attending, or indirectly if this grandmother goes. And so Alistair Begg's advice was really awful. It was terrible. It was bad. And now the question is, did T.G. Jakes, assuming he did attend some of these freak-offs, these orgies that P. Diddy was holding, did he try to apply this kind of missional outreach attitude like Alistair Begg was trying to do? And did he commit the same mistake as Alistair Begg? Let's read the article and we'll talk more about it. It says T.D. Jakes' relationship with Diddy under scrutiny again in wake of raid lawsuits. So we'll go down here and we will read a little further. The relationship between televangelist T.D. Jakes and music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has come under renewed public scrutiny following raids on two of Combs' homes Monday by federal agents and a recent lawsuit filed by Christian music producer Rodney Little Rod Jones alleging a slew of sex, gun, and drug crimes. So this P. Diddy is in big trouble because he's carrying out basically illegal and actually criminal activities at his gatherings, not to mention immoral. Rumors that emerged last December about Jakes and Combs' relationship continue to endure afresh online Wednesday, days after federal agents with Homeland Security investigations raided Combs' home in California and Florida as part of the sex trafficking investigation. So he's actually facing sex trafficking charges because of the way he recruited women and used drugs to get them basically to prostitute themselves to famous celebrity singers and actors. And they would come in to these gatherings, these freak-offs, and simply, it would be like an orgy. And the testimonies have said that people were basically in all kinds of different sexual activities during these things. And people could just come into the home, into the activity area, and just see people in different sorts of sexual activities, even some homosexual activities, but mostly the regular heterosexual activities. And so he's being charged with actually sex trafficking because this thing was so big. So, and it looks like there was a Christian music producer. I've never heard of him, but he also alleges that these took place. Now, it says that Jakes is not named as a defendant, but is mentioned once in the civil suit. And that Jones, this producer, says Jones claimed he recorded hours of video and audio of Combs, his staff, and others engaging in serious illegal activities, including drug use, shootings, and sex crimes. Among the recordings he allegedly made, Jones lists one of Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with T.D. Jakes to soften the impact of his public image of this lawsuit. So Combs was actually, it looks like, using T.D. Jakes as a way to sort of clean up his image and, get close to T.D. Jakes so that maybe the respect and the, I guess, image of T.D. Jakes would sort of rub off on him in the public eye. I'm not exactly sure all of his thinking there, but according to this producer, he's got on tape Combs trying to say that he's going to use T.D. Jakes to sort of clean up his image. In a 2022, a video of Jakes attending Diddy's 53rd birthday party in Los Angeles caused a stir among Christians on social media, with many questioning why he was at the party and whether it was appropriate for him to be attending a party thrown by Diddy, knowing the reputation of those parties. So it was known, I guess, in Hollywood for quite a while that this P. Diddy was throwing these freakouts, where these people would come in and prostitutes would be brought in, and there was all kinds of sexual immorality going on in these parties. And it looks like there was a video out circulating where it showed that T.D. Jakes was attending one of the parties at Diddy's house Whether it was the same as the freak-offs or what, I'm not sure, but it's a lot of Christians in the African American community and people that watch T.D. Jakes were questioning, well, why did you go over there? And, it says T.D. Jakes, the press agent for T.D. Jakes, said that he was Bishop Jakes was in L.A. for an important business meetings, and we felt that a quick appearance at the former chairman of Revolt's birthday event was the respectful thing to do, since Bishop Jakes' sermons are aired on the Revolt network. So there was some business connection with Puff Daddy or P. Diddy, and so they're saying that Jakes went over there just out of courtesy. But the question is, okay, let's say that T.D. Jakes wanted to cultivate a relationship with P. Diddy in an effort to be an influence, a good influence on his life. Maybe this was a way that he could reach some of the people that wouldn't normally be reached in a Sunday service at church, or they don't watch church on TV or radio, or don't read Christian books, or they're not living the Christian lifestyle. In fact, they're doing the opposite of that. They're living a very immoral lifestyle. And certainly P. Diddy would be someone who is in need of outreach, and in need of the gospel, and need of discipleship, need of godly influences in his life. So T.D. Jakes might perhaps have been thinking that by attending the parties at P. Diddy's place, or attending some of them, at least one of them, that this would be a show of friendship, and that it would influence P. Diddy and some of the other people there who were singers and actors and all kinds of celebrities, that he might be able to actually bring the gospel to them. And in fact, if you're Alistair Begg, I know in the same interview with the Bob Lepine, Alistair Begg made the comment, well, we have to learn how to take chances, more chances than we're taking right now in our outreach to the world. We have to be willing to go where the sinners are, and we have to be willing to take risks. And that's why he would tell this grandmother, well, go ahead and attend the gay wedding of your grandson. Be there to show him you care and love for him, and maintain that friendship. Because, in fact, Alistair Begg said in that same interview, he said, if you don't go, you're just going to reinforce the idea that Christians are legalistic and rigid and look down upon people who don't hold their values, and your grandson will be hardened and reject you. So you want to have an open relationship with him, and part of that would be cultivating the relationship by going to the gay wedding. Well, the grandmother, according to Alistair Begg, was shocked when she heard that. She said, what kind of advice is this? And again, Alistair reinforced the idea, well, if you don't go, he's just going to get the impression that all Christians are like that. They will reject you and turn their back on you unless you conform to their values and beliefs. And so he did encourage her to go ahead and go and bring a gift. Go the extra mile. Maybe he was thinking, if someone forces you to carry their load 1 mile, carry it 2. Surprise them. That was the attitude of Alistair Begg. You'll surprise them. You'll catch them off guard. You'll win them with your love, and you'll kill them with your kindness, and that'll break down their hard heart, and maybe the gospel will come in and they'll be converted. That is the thinking behind Alistair Begg's new book last year that he put out on the Sermon on the Mount. And he's trying to get Christians, he says we have to do more of that kind of thing. Actually, he's encouraging Christians to step out and be bold and do things that might raise an eyebrow or two, be unconventional, be creative, step out and do things out of your comfort zone, including going to a gay wedding. Well, is that a legitimate philosophy of outreach? Because if T.D. Jakes was trying to do that with P. Diddy and some of the Hollywood celebrities and music celebrities and singers, then according to Alistair Begg philosophy, he would be justified in going to these essentially orgies and just sitting there. Of course, not participating in the orgies. I think Alistair Begg would not in any way advocate that Christians go to a sinful activity where sinners are gathered and participate directly. But he definitely was advocating that he should, a Christian, should be willing to go to a sinful or questionable or even immoral activity, but not participate directly in it. Is that, though, legitimate? Because that might be exactly what T.D. Jakes was doing in going to P. Diddy's parties, knowing what kind of parties those are, and knowing that he throws parties where people gather and have all kinds of immoral activity, including homosexual activities, including fornicating and adultery, and all kinds of sexual perversions, immoral sex, drugs. One of the witnesses alleges, gun shootings and violence, and it's just debauchery, you might call it. Did T.D. Jakes say, well, in order to reach sinners, I have to go where they're at. And in order to go where they're at, I have to go in the den of iniquities, and I have to be where they're at and try to influence them to come out of that, or influence them to find the Lord so that they no longer want that or need that in their life. Was that some of the logic that T.D. Jakes was going through? If it was, is that legitimate? Now, I think the critics of Alistair Begg, when he gave his infamous, gay marriage advice for Christians, it's okay to go. I think most godly Christians and ministers of the gospel said, no, that's too far. That's crossing the line. Jesus never entered into a sinful activity and never entered into a sinful event in order to influence sinners. He did eat with sinners. He did talk to and gather with sinful people, including prostitutes and tax collectors and outlaws and all kinds of people that are immoral and bad and criminals and so on and so forth. But he did not enter into any sinful activity directly or indirectly with them, because it isn't a sin to sit down and talk with a prostitute. It's a sin to engage in the activity she's involved in. It wouldn't be a sin to go to a gathering where people are eating and talking, that kind of a party, or listening to music, that kind of a party. But if they're having an orgy in the mansion of P. Diddy, yeah, that would not be appropriate for a Christian to go into an orgy-filled freak out, as whatever they call it with P. Diddy. It would be inappropriate and out of place and wrong, actually, for a minister or any Christian to go into that environment, because you're not participating directly, but you're participating indirectly in the orgy. And the orgy is wrong. It's sinful. It's immoral. And you don't want to encourage in any way anyone there saying, hey, it must be okay because, T.D. Jakes is here. He's not objecting to anything here. I don't see him upset. I don't see him trying to get, P. Diddy to try to call this off because of the debauchery and the immorality and the sexuality and the criminality. He's not praying, and he's not trying to share the gospel directly with T.D. Jakes. He's just talking and he's laughing, and that would give the wrong impression of sin. That would minimize sin. Jesus never went into a sinful event or activity. Jesus never went into a brothel in order to reach the prostitutes, because the brothel itself is a sinful place. It's a sinful activity. It's a sinful event where men and women engage in immorality. And so it would be improper for the disciples or Jesus to go actually into a brothel and hang around there. Now, I think it was the movie The Last Temptation of Jesus that was put out in the early 90s or late 80s, shows Jesus in this fictionalized representation of Christ as in a brothel, being sort of voyeuristic. No, that's not in the Bible, and that's not appropriate. Well, it wouldn't be appropriate for a Christian to attend a gay wedding because that is a sinful event. It's made sinful by the mockery and blasphemy of this fake sham marriage, and no Christian should lend their support either directly or indirectly to that, and neither should a minister of the gospel like T.D. Jakes go to one of these P. Diddy parties, these freak-offs, where there's all kinds of orgies going on and immoralities, prostitutes are coming in and out, and just for the sake of maintaining his relationship with Sean Puffy Combs in order to influence him down the road somewhere to convert to Jesus and turn his life over to Christ. No, you don't have to do that. And that's what everyone was telling Alistair Begg when they criticized him last year. No, you don't have to go to the gay wedding to maintain the relationship with the sinner in your family. You can go to family gatherings. You can sit down at the table. You can sit down in the living room and talk with them and find out what's going on in their life. And you can do all kinds of things in a social setting, but you don't go into their den of iniquity. You don't go into their immoral, sinful activities and either directly or indirectly support them in their sinful activity, because you're aiding and abetting the sin in their life if you do that. That was what was wrong with the advice that Alistair Begg gave, and this would be what was wrong with T.D. Jakes in attending these P. Diddy parties. Because again, he's not actually helping P. Diddy much, and he's actually confusing and frustrating and really causing more problems than he's helping. So hopefully that's been clarifying, and we will see you back next time on another edition of the program. God bless.